The inflation, of course, brings big challenges to families, concerned about paying for food and education. So the question is, does being single make a difference, at least financially? Mark New explores this from San Francisco.
For Dylan Benander, teaching music at 3 middle schools and singing as a professional performer while studying music at graduate school is a challenge.
When all of the bills for college are due, it's just led to a lot of stress. Most people like myself have to commute pretty far for work in the Bay Area, so gas prices are really take a big effect on my income.
Living in the San Francisco Bay Area, Dylan has always made sure to find a roommate to split costs to rent a 2-bedroom apartment that goes for $3,000 a month.
What are your thoughts about owning a home someday?
Kind of far from my mind. I think it's kind of a big problem that we're expected to plan things like homes and all of those things. Lots of those institutions, it seems, have been designed for couples and makes it a lot harder with single people to kind of navigate.
According to finance site GoBankingRates.com, California ranked 3rd highest among U.S. states for living wage. That's about an $80,000 a year salary needed to get by. Only the states of Massachusetts and Hawaii were higher.
So this is an $8 million house in San Francisco, and now we are on the Pent level.
Realtor Butch Hayes shows me a luxury home, which he points out still works to maximize space.
How do I maximize or make it look like the space is bigger?
Hayes says he's seen more singles teaming up to rent places and even buy homes and complexes together.
For singles is to find a partner that might want to invest in one of those opportunities are multifamily buildings, like a 2-unit or 3-unit building. And so each one can take one level or a condo or 1 unit in that building. Oftentimes, that building can be cheaper than, let's say, a house.
The home ownership rate in the U.S. is roughly 66%. Who's buying these homes? Well, about 61% are married couples, 17% single women, and just 9% single men.
I did not have the funds to start renting a new place for myself or even get myself a new home. So I'm currently living here with my family. I've been living here the last 2 years now.
24-year-old Joshua Caliado shows me his street in Daly City, California.
1.1, 1.2 million, like the house that I'm currently living in is valued at 1.2.
There have been restaurants I go to where I used to maybe pay like $100 at most for maybe me and like 2 other friends, but now like prices go up like $200, $250 for just 1 check.
Living at home has helped Joshua financially, but he says just as important are lessons from his parents to continually set aside money.
I was very fortunate enough to be taught this at a very early age, how to save money, how to understand finances, to prepare for, eventually I'm going to have to deal with that on my own. And it can be scary. Definitely something I want to focus on is helping young professionals and, single professionals.
Joshua's next career move is actually becoming a financial planner, which he says will allow him to not only share what he's learned from his parents, but also what he's learned living as a single with the dream of someday owning a home. Mark New, CGTN, San Francisco.
It's amazing that people pay more to be single. We're going to look at a closer look at why this is happening and discuss, I guess, the economics with Anthony Chan, the former chief economist at JPMorgan Chase. Good to see you, Anthony. As I was listening to that story, I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, but if you're single, there are also other expenses you don't have to pay for, like diapers and doggy care and the rest that goes with, I guess, being with a partner. But I suppose I understand the challenges when it comes to being single. How should the economy, or should the economy, worry about those individuals?
Well, the reality, Phil, is that all families face challenges. I did a Substack article under the People's Economist that looked at all the wages all the way back to 1965. And what you'll find there is that real wages only increased by about 0.2%. If you look at all employees, and that data only goes back to 2007, it's only 0.5%. So that is why it's challenging for all employees. But can you imagine for a single person? That means that that person has to actually pay the almost double what they would have to pay if they were in a 2-household situation. So whether it's a vacuum cleaner, whether it's utilities, they pay 100% of it. And given the backdrop that they have not kept up with real wages for so many years, in fact, when you look at both measures, we've only seen workers now creeping up a little bit higher on wages above inflation in the first measure, 6 months, and in the second
Right,
measure
but
I gave you.
Anthony, come on. I mean, I'm not going to have empathy for that because you could be married and one person works in the household and there's like 17 children and you're paying for everything. It could also, you can make the argument the other way as well.
Well, Phil, I'm not asking you to be empathetic. I'm just telling you the facts. And the reality is that with the fertility rate that is below 2, the average household does not have 17 kids. In fact, right now, what we are experiencing is that we're not even producing enough kids to keep our population growing. That's why we're relying on immigration to get the labor force growing. And in fact, it's been well documented. I did another Substack article on this that shows that the increase in the labor force has increased only because of immigration. And I don't take a position as to whether immigration is good or bad, but that is the only reason why the labor force has increased.
Fair enough. You're an economist. So if we have more people in the labor force, more people working, more people coming into the force, wouldn't they need to have places to live? I mean, aren't you just creating more competition for the same things that we're complaining about that are too expensive? Take rent, for example. I don't want to compete against other people for rent. I want less people to be able to rent and buy homes.
Well, that's true. If you have more people demanding houses or rental properties, rent prices and housing prices are going up. In fact, let's take it right to housing. What we're seeing right now is that housing prices are increasing, even in an environment where people are thinking, how could they be going up when mortgage rates are going up? And yet they are rising. And the answer is exactly spot on the argument you just made. Is simply because we're not producing enough houses in this environment. The demand is still greater than supply. There's a scarcity of supply of houses. So guess what? Housing prices are rising and rent prices are still high. Now, we know rent prices today are rising a little bit slower than they were rising maybe 12 months ago, if you look at Zillow and things like that. But if you look at everything since the pandemic, you're behind the 8 ball. Rental prices have gone up too much.
Anthony, do you think single people get penalized more for things such as insurance? Because oftentimes when you buy insurance, you'll get a discount. If you're married, you have 1 car, 2 car, and 3 cars. So when you're only just doing one thing at a time, and health insurance is another example, right? The family plan, it doesn't matter if you do have 10 children or not. It's sort of, you just pay the one fee. And if you're single, you're paying a big fee for just one person. You don't have any economies of scale.
No, you're right, Phil. If you have 10 kids, you still pay the family plan. But some insurance policies for healthcare, if you're single, you don't pay you pay a little bit less than if you were married. But you're right. If you have 6 children, 7 children, which is not the normal, but some people have it, they do get a discount. That's correct.
So let's pretend for a moment you and I are single. I know we're not, but let's just pretend that we are, and we're saving up money for a house or a car, and we're in our 30s, okay, or 20s maybe. What is the financial plan? Like, what should we be doing?
Well, what we should be doing is trying to save as much as we can and cut back, which is kind of the opposite of what really happens. People in their younger years want to spend a lot, and then later on in life, they've already experienced things. So they do spend, but they don't spend as much. But the problem is that's precisely what you need to be doing, is spending less and trying to save up for a house. The problem is that if real incomes are not even keeping up with inflation, you can't do it. And that's the reason why today we are experiencing so much pain. Look at Dollar Store. Those companies that basically focus on people at the lower income spectrum. They're not doing very well, but consumer spending is doing well. And why is that?
The bottom line,
doing better.
The bottom line is we got to make a little more money, and I got to get that box of ramen noodles, and I think we'll make things a little bit better. Anthony, good advice there. Good to see you, my friend.